Okay, so we're going to do your first video, and what you guys need to keep in mind is that this is serving as your instruction or your notes. So as I go through the examples, I expect that you are going to be going through and working the examples on your paper as well. If you want to, pause the video, go back, play an example again, you're welcome to. If you watch the whole video and you want to go back and rewatch it, you're welcome to do that as well. So take advantage of the fact that you can pause, you can rewind, you can replay, all of those kinds of things. But I do want you to watch the video in its entirety, even if you think you might know what's happening, because that would be in the event that you don't. It would show up later on on a quiz or a test when we get to that point. So what we're going to work on today is multiplying radicals. So just to start off with the basic ones, when we multiply radicals together, if we had something like 3 square root of 5 multiplied with negative 2 square root of 10, all right? Basically, what you need to remember is that you can only multiply the things that are the same kind, meaning that square roots can multiply with square roots, and coefficients can multiply with coefficients. So we can multiply the square roots together, and we can multiply the coefficients together. We can't take a coefficient and multiply it to a radical unless we change the coefficient back into a radical first. And that's what we were doing the other day. So in this problem, if we multiply our coefficients together, we get negative 6. If we multiply the square roots together, square root of 5 times square root of 10 is square root of 50. All right, now before we're finished, we want to check and make sure that this, in fact, is simplified. So we want to look at the 50 and see if we can break this down into 2 square roots where one of them is a prime number, and we can. So the square root of 50 is 25 times 2. Don't forget that that negative 6 is still outside. All right, then we can go ahead and simplify this to be negative 6. The square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 2 stays as the square root of 2. So the answer to this problem is negative 30 times the square root of 2. And that is the simplified answer when we multiply those 2 square roots together. So a few things, again, just to reiterate, you can only multiply numbers inside the square roots with other numbers inside the square root. And you can only multiply coefficients to coefficients. And then once you're done, you need to make sure that your answer is in its simplified form. All right, next example. We're going to move on and look at multiplying using distributive property. So if we had the square root of 2, and then in parentheses, we'll just do a binomial. Let's say we have 3 minus 4 square root of 6. All right, so this is just distributive property. Anytime we are trying to multiply 2 polynomials or 2 expressions together, and one of them involves adding or subtracting, that's going to mean that you have to distribute in order to get your answer. So first we will multiply those 2 together, which really means just 3 times the square root of 2, because we can't actually multiply the 3 and the 2 together. And then we're going to distribute the square root of 2 to the negative 4 square root of 6, and we will get negative 4 square root of 12. And again, we can multiply the 2 and the 6 because they're both inside the square root, but the 4 still stays multiplied on the outside. So now we're going to look and see if there's any simplifying we can do, and there is over here. So 3 square root of 2 doesn't change. But over here, we can simplify the square root of 12 to be the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. But don't forget, we still have that negative 4 multiplied out in front of it. So when we are done, we end up with, so here we'll move this down here, 3 square root of 2 minus 4 times 2 times the square root of 3. So I'm just simplifying this right here. All right, we can do a little bit more by multiplying the 4 and the 2 together. So we end up with 3 square root of 2 minus 8 square root of 3. And this is simplified completely. This is simplified completely. They're not like terms, so we can't actually subtract them. So this is the answer. All right, so we had to distribute up here because we had a binomial expression over here. We had an expression with 2 terms over here, so we had to distribute this to both of them. And then simplify all that you can. Check for like terms. If you don't have any, then you're finished. All right, the last type of multiplying that we have is multiplying that involves FOILing. So, for example number 3, example number 3, let's do, 4 plus the square root of 5, and we can multiply that to 7 minus 2 square root of 15. Okay, so we're multiplying one expression that has 2 terms here with another expression that has 2 terms. So we're really doing a binomial times a binomial, and that's where the FOIL comes in that we learned last week. So first thing that I'm going to do a little bit of color coding here so you can follow where the numbers come from. I need to multiply the first terms together. So 4 times 7 is going to equal 28. All right. Next up, I need to multiply the outside terms together. So 4 times a negative 2 square root of 15 is going to be a negative 8 square root of 15. All right, next up we have the inside terms. So we need to multiply these two together, and you're going to end up with positive 7 square root of 5. And then the last terms multiplied together are going to be those two, and we'll end up with a negative 2 square root of 75. Okay, so now we need to see if there's any simplifying that we can do, and then if we can combine any like terms together. So right here we have 28. This cannot be simplified, so that's 8 square root of 15. This one cannot be simplified, so that's 7 square root of 5. This can be simplified. 75 can be broken down to the square root of 25 times 3. The square root of 25 is 5, which will be multiplied to the 2, so we'll have negative 10 square root of 3. And then looking through, we have no like terms, so that one is our answer. All right, one last one, and then I think hopefully you'll have enough examples. But again, if you need to go back and rewatch the video at all, please do. So, for example 4, we'll do 5 plus 2 square root of 3. And we'll multiply that with negative 1 plus, we'll do 4 square root of 3. All right, so first we're going to do FOIL again because we have two binomials together. So our first terms multiplied together would be negative 5. All right, our outside terms multiplied together will be a positive 20 times the square root of 3. All right, our inside terms multiplied together will be negative 2 square root of 3. And then our last terms multiplied together, we multiply those two together, we'll have 8 times 3, which is a positive 24. All right, so now we'll see if we can do any simplifying or combining like terms, and we can, because we have like terms right there in the form of just coefficients. So negative 5 with a positive 24 is going to be positive 19. And then we have square root of 3 terms that are like terms, so we can combine those together. A positive 20 square root of 3 minus 2 square root of 3 is going to be a positive 18 square root of 3. And we can't combine those together because they are not like square roots, so that one right there is your answer. All right, I hope that covers multiplying, but again, if you need to rewatch the video or go back and redo an example, please feel free to do that. And if you want to even come back and refer to this prior to the test and quiz, this video link will still be there.